welcome to Haunted Hangover Live. I'm Louie. That's Manny. We are here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm hoping my neighbors aren't having a party today. like the last live. Shouting in the hallway, having a full-blown conversation.
You're just upset that you haven't gotten an invite yet.
I don't want to be invited. The type of parties in my building, you don't want to know.
Wow.
Yes, they're parties. You don't want an invitation.
Racist. That sounds racist.
It is not. It is not. It is not. It's as far from racist as it gets. Some of the stuff I've heard, some of the noises, some of the
they're having sex parties.
Swinger parties in my building. Sounds like Manny might want to be invited to one of those parties.
No, my swinger days are over.
Those are your numbers up in the rafters with Sting. It's up there hanging.
That's it.
It's up there.
It's on fire. It's on fire in the roof above the Disturbed concert.
Oh God,
burning.
Where it belongs, with the burning Disturbed concert.
Did you hear about that?
I did not. What happened?
They had a show in Chicago. Their pyro singed the pennants of the Bulls. Chicago Bulls, like those hanging pennants.
The like when someone retires, the numbers. Oh,
no. The championships.
Oh, the actual the years
Bulls
that they won.
Yes, the Bulls championships that hangs around the arena.
Oh,
Disturbed their pyro, singed it. I don't know how. I didn't see how badly, but they burned some of them.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Of all the bands, Disturbed. Oh,
yeah.
Oh God. Oh no. How high were these flames going?
Dude, I don't know.
I'm just saying, when you go to a concert, so we've gone.
I wasn't there. So.
I know, but when you go to wrestling events and you go to concerts, especially wrestling, there's always fire and indoor pyro. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times they do it at arenas. So you see those flags and the pennants and all that stuff. I've never seen a single issue where one of those things have burned or been destroyed. So I'm just laughing.
I think that's mostly just the placement of where the stage was in relation to where they were hanging. You know what I mean?
Someone definitely lost their job.
I'm sure somebody was fired.
Somebody unemployed.
Was fucking fired.
Yes, someone is unemployed. Some production manager or something, stage manager is going to be.
Someone's unemployed, and Disturbed probably has a very big bill.
They're going to go and run. They're going to go be the touring manager for Rammstein next. Who loves fire?
I've seen Rammstein, and I could totally see them setting some shit on fire. I saw them at the Hammerstein. And
okay.
Man, those flames they go pretty high, but that's the reason why Rammstein doesn't play here often.
I mean, they also play outdoor venues for the most part when they play here, I think.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's because their stage show is too big to be indoors. And in order to get an outdoor arena, it's usually a big thing. So it's it wasn't until the last maybe 10 years that Rammstein is big enough that they could sell out, a huge, a football stadium type thing,
Only band to have a guy go on stage with a fake dick that shoots out fire. You gotta be.
I mean, I'm sure Guar's done that. Come on.
No, they shoot I've seen Guar. They shoot liquids. Oh, dude. On this topic, tangent hour here. I remember going to see Guar.
I've not seen Guar. I've seen Nile, but I've not seen Guar.
I've seen Nile as well. Oh, Nile's a pretty dry band. There's nothing is flying at you in the audience.
They had a chainsaw though. They did have a chainsaw.
Some reasons, an Egyptian death metal band. There was a chainsaw on stage.
Chainsaw. It was at the
should have been a sarcophagus.
It was at the Continental on St. Mark's Place, probably one of the smallest venues that Nile had ever played.
And there was a chainsaw on stage.
Chainsaw.
Guar. And I saw Guar when, is it Dave Brockie, I think is the guy's name? Yeah. Or the original Odorous, the original singer before he passed away. And I was like, oh, they're hyping it up. I know people.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Bile.
Oh,
not
Bile.
Nile.
Not Nile. I was about to say. The Egyptian death metal
That's
band?
why I was like, wait, they're Egyptian? No, it's Bile, not
Bile.
Nile.
You're thinking about Nile.
Bile.
No chainsaws. The only thing you'll get on Nile is like sarcophaguses and like Egyptian fonts and things.
Bile at the Continental. Gotcha. He had a chainsaw attached to the end of his guitar.
That tracks.
Yes, that tracks.
That tracks. But yeah, I remember going to see Guar. And I remember, they're hyping it up. If I sit in the back, I won't get all the like fake semen shot at me and blood and stuff. Boy, was I wrong.
Wow. Still
Dude,
got it, huh?
And this was at Irving Plaza here in New York. Oh. If you know New York, Irving Plaza is a famous venue. They're still around, I believe they are. One of the last venues, I think, that are still around from years ago. And it's a pretty small venue. It's not a big venue, Irving Plaza. And I remember leaving, and the floors were just covered in shit and stuff and sticky and different colors.
Literal shit.
Not shit. I hope not. I wasn't looking, so, but I could feel it.
It was wet enough that you might not have noticed it.
Yeah, someone just shat themselves and kept it moving in the Guar. Listen,
there was so much liquid flowing, it just washed the floor.
If there's one concert you're gonna shit yourself at, it's a Guar concert.
You know,
no one would notice. But I just remember leaving and telling myself, the people that have to clean this up afterwards, there's like liquids, empty beer cans, toilet paper, confetti all over the floor. Oh. And I've been to many shows at Irving Plaza. I've gone seen like hardcore bands and death metal bands there. And that's again a very dry. There's nothing projectile getting thrown at you. And I just was like, this is horrible. Good show. Gross. Was a blast. I'm glad I got to see that iteration of them to the original kind of Guar with him. But yes, very messy. But nothing was lit up in flames like Disturbed did to the Chicago Bulls arena over there.
I had tickets for Guar, but we didn't go.
I mean, it's an experience. I'd recommend it, even if you hate their music.
Well, no, it had nothing to do with that. It was I think it was last summer or the summer before. It was Guar, Mudvayne, and like 4 other bands.
Interesting tour.
Yeah, it was very, very recent. It was last summer. It was literally over 100 degrees that day. Oof. And we had gotten like those, when the Ticketmaster does that, the Live Nation week or something, where they sell tickets for like 15
discounted tickets.
So we got 2 tickets for like $15. I'm like, well, I've seen Mudvayne twice already. I'd seen and Butcher Babies was the only one on that Butcher Babies and Guar were the only 2 that I hadn't seen.
Okay.
And Butcher Babies is who I wanted to see. And they were like the opening band. It's like, okay, I've seen all the other 2 or 3 bands fairly recently, Guar's like, okay, I couldn't name any of their songs. Like, they're cool.
Meat sandwich.
Yeah, other than like whatever song is in Empire Records, I couldn't, I don't know them that well. Yeah. So I was like, it's just going to be a good show. Butcher Babies I really like, though. But for $15,
I couldn't name a single Butcher Baby song if you asked me. Not my cup of tea.
No, I like them. But and for $15, I was like, okay, let's why not? We got tickets. They were way up in the rafters, but we got up and it was literally over 100 degrees a day, and it was at Jones Beach, which is uncovered.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I've been there.
I don't feel like standing in 100-degree heat and for melting. 6 hours. We had never been to Jones Beach either, though. A week later, we went to some other show at Jones and realized that because it's right by the water, it's just constantly wind.
So it's not too bad.
Always a breeze. And I said, fuck, we probably could have been just fine.
Yeah.
Especially being way up in the rafters, we probably would have been fine. But yeah, whatever. As I said, it was a cheap show. $15. We didn't feel like we missed that. We didn't lose out. Like if it was like $30-$40 a ticket, we'd be like, okay, let's at least see the opening band that we wanted. Let's go see at least 2 or 3, give it a try. But for $15, I was like,
honestly, even sitting in
cost me more to get a drink.
Costs you more for parking. Honestly.
You know what I mean? Like seriously.
Funny enough, I think Guar is the only band that if you're in the rafters, you're still getting hit with like piss or something. There's still something. You'll be in the nosebleeds again in the rafters with Sting. You'll still get hit. Still get hit by something probably just because they just love shooting liquids everywhere. But yes, that's enough concert talk. Main topic. something we've been wanting to do for a while, something, an idea I've had, and that is our desert island horror films.
Yeah.
Now, gonna kind of set this up. The way I had it in Louis' brain, the way I kind of...
Louis' brain.
Louis' brain.
I'm going to be clear that Louis did not share this.
Yes, I did not share this with Manny.
Until like 5 minutes before we came on.
It came to me last night.
He explained all this, and I said, well, you didn't tell me that. You just said desert horror movies.
But honestly, knowing you'd still probably pick most of these movies. I don't even know what you have on your list. I should also state that neither one of us know what the other picked.
Well, you know one of mine.
I know one of yours.
The most obvious.
Which I think you'd pick in a desert island list.
Yes, I would, 100%.
Regardless, it doesn't matter. Now, what Manny's alluding to, these aren't necessarily our... Well, I have a feeling
for the most part,
our favorite horror films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
There's one or two movies that would be maybe on my list of favorite horror films of all time, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'd be in the top 5, you know? So that was what I didn't tell Manny. I didn't mention that to him. I was like, if we were on a desert island, this is the setup. If we were on a desert island and there's no streaming, no service, no internet, and we're with a group of people and we want to watch...
The group of people is new. You didn't tell me
I didn't tell Manny that.
Didn't tell me anything about a group of people. You just said on a desert island.
Sorry. This mysterious group of people was...
Suddenly we're marooned with a bunch of people where we had a choice of the movies we were going to bring with us.
I still think this will work. If
we were going to Survivor Island, where we knew that we were on our way there and you had to pack because the next 6 months you're going to be there.
Naked and afraid.
There you go.
These are all we come with is movies.
Well, if we're gonna be naked and afraid, I'm picking a different movie. That changes the list.
Manny's picking a laser disc to cover up a little bit. But yeah, so that was the setup. It's like these are movies if we were stuck with no internet and we had a big projector and we're there for a couple days. What's the movie marathon? Again, last minute setup here, but it still works. So this list, it doesn't necessarily mean it's our favorite horror films of all time. But again, looking at mine, at least two of these I think would be in my top 5 for sure. And I think all of these will probably be in my top 10. So tomato. It's still same thing. In the future, if we do a top 10 horror films of all time, we'll mention the ones that we talk about here being on that list as well. So that's the setup. That's kind of was the idea that I did not inform Manny all that information of the Naked and Afraid island that we'd be on with everybody. So forgive me, Manny, for not including you in that conversation.
I just edited my list. I had like 10 movies listed here.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm just going to go through depending, because I had a feeling that one or two of them might be on your list as well. So I said, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I said one or two might be on your list as well. So I said, well, let me get a couple of alternates.
Yes.
You know? So, so I just edited them down. Okay. I'm down to 6 now.
Okay, so here's how we'll do this. So we're gonna start. Before we start the top 5, we'll go 5. You start first, Manny, then me. We'll go back and forth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I do have 2 films. Another. Yeah, Manny.
More caveats.
I didn't tell you. I need another 15. I need your top 5 non-horror films as well. I'm just kidding.
I have 4.
Oh, well, there you go.
I have 4.
I'm
just
joking.
In case we went there.
No, we're not going there. But actually, we are kind of going there because I have 2 movies that are sort of horror adjacent. There's horrific shit in them, but you wouldn't. And even one of my picks, I'll say this now. People can argue with me. One of my picks might technically not be a horror film, but to me it is. So it's my fucking list. Who cares? But there's 2 films that I think you can argue with me more are technically not horror films. So I'll start with my 2, and then Manny could jump into his 1 or 2 that he wants to mention that are kind of horror adjacent, I guess is a good way of putting it, but aren't in the genre bubble of a horror film. So my first one, movie I love, dare I say, most children of the 80s and 90s love this movie. Technically a comedy, not a horror film, but it's got ghost in it. And it's got, science and science fiction elements as well, I guess you could say, because they're scientists. And that's 1984's Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Technically not a horror film, but if someone told you it could fall into the horror comedy category, technically it could. There's creatures, they're Ghostbusters, and ghosts are associated with horror. So that's one movie that I'm like, it leans way too much in the comedy. Like like whenever people talk about horror comedies, you never hear people mention Ghostbusters. I just think it's a universally loved movie for most people. So I didn't include it because it just didn't feel like it would be. And I love Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is one of my favorite movies, but is it one of my favorite horror movies? I wouldn't put it in that bracket. Okay. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because it's not like there's ghosts.
No, it's not a horror movie. It's
Stay Puffed, Slimer.
It's a comedy with horror elements.
Yeah.
It's not even a horror comedy. It's a comedy with horror elements.
Ghostbusters is one of those movies that's almost like a genre into itself. It's hard to whenever we go to horror conventions, you see a lot of Ghostbusters shit. It's not really like a horror film. That's weird. It like transcends genre, I guess. I mean, if you really wanted to put it, it's like a pop culture icon, but a pop culture, it is. And it is like Ghostbusters as a brand. Everyone knows Ghostbusters, whether you hate the movie or not. And I'm talking about the original 1984 film, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I love it. It's great. All right. My second film that is, I'd put it in my top 5 favorite films of all time. And when we do that one day, I'll describe why, etc. This too, science fiction, but people are killed. People are eaten by said things. And fantastic cast. I love it. Jurassic Park from 93. Big Jurassic Park guy. Horrific shit in it. See a guy get eaten off of a toilet. See Samuel L. Jackson's arm fall on Laura Dern, all bloody and disgusting. There is violence in it. It's scary shit in there when it came out. So, and that, I think, confused audiences when it came out in 93, but not horror at all. I'd put that as far in the spectrum of not a horror film, more so than even Ghostbusters, but then I could also see someone saying there's horrific shit in it. Like Jaws. Would you consider Jaws a horror movie? I mean, there's horrific shit in it. There's something eating and killing people, which is something we see in horror films, Yeah. So it's tricky. These were 2 movies. I was like, these are not horror movies. I'm going to push them to the side, but I'll sprinkle a little love on them here because there was shit in it that I feel could fall under the bracket of horror. Okay. One more, and this just didn't make the cut. So this is like an honorable mention because my other pick, there was two films, and I was telling myself, both of these movies are held in such high regard in horror that I don't want to pick both of them because it makes the list more fun adding something else and why I picked it if we were on said island. So that film is Rosemary's Baby, which everyone knows, Rosemary's Baby. So like that would be on my probably top 5 movie. Again, let me not focus on that too much, but that would be in my top films of all time, top horror films of all time. But I didn't add it in because there's another movie on my list that is, I think everyone will agree, is one of the greatest horror films of all time. So can't really, I think having both of them is a little too basic. You know what I mean? Like, and okay. I should clarify that here too. I don't know about Manny's list, but I wouldn't say my picks are these, like, there's nothing pretentious about any of my picks. These are very pretty popular films. Yeah. I'm not going to be here and say like, If I was on a desert island, I'd pick Pink Flamingos from John Waters because the impact it had on culturally. Like, that's not what I'm doing here. I mean, there's people out there that feel that way about Pink Flamingos, I'm sure. And I love Pink Flamingos. I do. It is.
Good for them.
It is a great movie. I love Pink Flamingos. I love John Waters, but I don't think that's a desert island film that everyone would enjoy.
No.
So that's why I just wanted to state that here, that neither one of us, I think, picked anything that's kind of out of left field and deep cut or anything.
I have one that's kind of a deep cut, but it's not a pretentious kind of, oh, the impact. It's no.
Really?
But it's one of those.
No Skinamarink in your desert island. No Skinamarink in your desert island top 5.
Only if it was a noisy island and I needed something to put me to sleep.
There you go. Little white noise in the background.
The desert island is a noisy place, so I need something to focus on to kind of blank me out. For whatever reason,
insomnia.
The dolphins are always all night long, and the crickets are going nuts, and the pigs are fucking in the woods. I'm gonna watch Skinamarink and put me out.
What kind of island is this? Dolphins?
That's what I'm saying.
Crickets
I don't know.
And pigs fucking in the woods.
It's an island. You got woods. There's some desert here. There's water.
Wild boars.
The wild boars. And did you ever watch Lost?
There
was a fucking polar bear on Lost. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's a horrific island then that we're on.
Episode 1, there was a polar bear.
Wasn't there like an evil force and like a giant on that island as well?
I mean, that's kind of the whole story. Yeah.
All right, Manny. Let's talk about some of the movies that didn't make your top 5.
Yeah, the ones that didn't. I went to the same, like you said. You suddenly decided we have a group of people that we have to entertain now.
My apologies again.
So some of my list got a little shifted. It's like, okay, well, this is something that I could watch forever. But does anybody else find it entertaining? Probably not. But based on that criteria of films that would be entertaining, but they're not necessarily horror films in the same Transylvania 6-5000.
For sure.
Just
classic.
Fun, silly, ridiculous movie. You have a Lady Dracula.
Gina Davis.
Yep. There's a Lady Dracula. We have a Frankenstein. We have an Igor. We got a Wolfman. We have the gypsy woman of the Wolfman's mother. We have the mad scientist, and then, Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. just hamming it up every second of the film.
Chewing on every scene. Chewing it up.
Scene. Patient trying to get out. Patient trying to get out.
So good. I love that movie. Yeah. But again, horror elements, but a comedy. Kind of in line with Ghostbusters, you could say. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with these honorables. Another one. I don't know what the 3 of these. I have 3 of them. Okay. I'm gonna do 3 just because they're all really on the same level to me. Like, I could not tell you which one I enjoy the most, but I love all 3 of them. So Transylvania 6-5000, Once Bitten.
Similar.
I love Once Bitten.
So do I.
Absolutely love that movie. I'm still a Jim Carrey fan, to my wife's chagrin. She is not a big Jim Carrey fan, but I am.
He's a hard guy to hate, I think, but I guess Lynn, your wife,
She doesn't hate him. She doesn't hate him. She's just not a fan. She's just like, whatever. But the Bruce Almighty I watched. I watch Bruce Almighty and Liar Liar and Yes Man. Yes Man, I absolutely, I don't know why. There's something about, not so much his earlier ridiculous ones, but the more straight.
I mean, comedy. I love Dumb and Dumber. I love Ace Ventura, The Mask.
I do too.
Yeah,
but I don't enjoy them as much as I used to.
Interesting.
I like them. They're just, I don't enjoy them as much as I did when I was a teenager. His newer, I like them better, but we're not talking about those. But Once Bitten, absolutely love that movie. And the third one on the same level, The Burbs.
It's so funny. All 3 of those have a similar flavor, I'd say.
Yes, they do. And that's why I couldn't tell you which one I like more. Which one is my favorite of the 3? They're all pretty much tied. And they're just great movies.
That's the thing with movies like The Burbs and like all the Ghostbusters. Even those movies are comedies first. That take horror elements and add them in. So I can totally see that. I can see you were in the same when it comes to like those picks, you know?
Yeah, it's a comedy film that they set within a horror universe.
Yeah.
You know, but they just didn't but they kept them in that PG-13 realm. They never got really bloody or too
like family films, technically, you know?
Yeah.
So like anyone could watch those.
It's what we would have called gateway horror, you know, where, you know, it's somewhere in the middle that everybody can kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it's those are movies that just played constantly as a kid. Like I saw them; they were constantly on TV when I was a child, and that's how I saw all of them. I'd put even like Killer Clowns from Outer Space in that bracket and stuff like that. People love. So, I mean, yeah, makes sense. Those are three good ones. Did you know? They're making a Burbs. Sorry for the tangent. A Burbs TV show for Peacock. I don't know how I feel about that. Keke Palmer's in it, which she's pretty good. So I'm hoping
I can see what they would do with it.
Yeah, a contemporary take on it.
But I mean, it's just like a neighborhood with a weird neighbor. Like like there's a weird neighbor, but I can see them going farther. Yeah, but like I can see them going farther where there's more than just one weird house.
Possibly.
You know, where like they keep finding
bones
weird stuff in the
and
town.
Shit, more stuff.
You focus on like the 2 or 3 main characters, and they just keep finding all this weird stuff just buried underneath in the subculture of their neighborhood. You know, like they could go into the ice cream guy.
Yeah,
you know, when he just flipped out, they could do a little bit of that. Like that's the background of the of the town. Now these new people moved in, and then there's that weird shit. But wait a minute, what is the guy down the street doing over there? He's suddenly he's got 5 dogs in his yard, and he's digging up holes. What is going? You know, this guy over here has sounds coming. You know.
I mean, I'll watch it out of curiosity, but that original movie is so good. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
So
I think that you could do that. Like one house is exactly that. The people with the bones in the basement. One house is like the people under the stairs where they, you know what I mean? They have their daughter that they keep locked up in the attic for some reason. You know, another house is, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could do that. Every house has something weird happening within it, and these guys are slowly uncovering it. You know, realizing they're the only normal people in the whole.
I'm sure when it comes out
down the street, you know.
I'm sure when it comes out, we'll both check it out and we'll jump on here and talk about it. If it sucks, we'll rip it to shreds. Yeah. So, all right, Manny, you start.
Okay.
We're in the top 5 desert island horror movies. Number 5, Manny, you go first.
I'm gonna do my first. My first is going to be my most obvious. It is the plain, simple one because you kind of gave it away. You didn't even have to ask me.
I just know you too well.
You just knew that this was going to be the movie Creepshow.
Yes.
I'm going to take this movie with me forever, as long as I live. I don't even need the DVD. You want to entertain people? I'll just act the whole thing out, word for word.
Manny will pull out a crate.
I will
jump in and turn into Fluffy.
I will perform the whole film when the DVD player is not working.
Meteor shit. You're going to do it yourself. There you go.
That's it. That's it.
I mean, honestly, Creepshow is one of those movies. I don't think I've ever met a person that hates it. I don't think I've ever met a person that's like, I hate Creepshow.
If you go to Letterboxd, you'll find some. And
those people are stupid.
Comment on every one of them. Like, exactly. Every one of them. I'm going to go down the line. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
I mean, if you hate Creepshow, you're probably not a horror fan. That's what I would say. Like, you got to you just don't like horror movies. I mean, that is one I feel just universally loved. So much merch, so many t-shirts, so many posters, so many screenings. I mean, such a vibrant movie. The talent behind it, George Romero, Tom Savini, the actors. You got Tom Atkins in there, Adrian Barbeau. Who else? Everyone's in that goddamn movie.
E.G. Marshall.
E.G. Marshall. A racist E.G. Marshall at the end there.
Jessica Lindfors.
Yes. Ed Harris is in that goddamn movie.
Ed Harris.
Doing all the moves.
Oh, yes.
Don't let go. I have a memory. I don't know. This is another. Lots of tangents in this episode. I have a memory. I was at your old apartment. I don't know why. You were just playing the song from that scene over and over again. And it was just a constant loop.
Just the song.
I don't know
itself,
why you were playing
I have
it.
the track. I actually have the track, but it's not a full song.
It's just a loop, right?
Yeah, it's like 4 minutes of just the same.
Of Don't Let Go.
Loop. Yeah, Don't Let Go. And then there's the baby, higher, higher, don't let go. And then it's got 2 sections that just loops for 4 minutes straight. 'Cause they just needed it to loop in the so it could have been on maybe twice, and it would feel like I was playing it all day long because it's just the same repetitive. It's like Don't Let Go, the dance song. Dance track from the 90s. Please don't go. Please. It's just that for 4 minutes. It feels like the longest song in existence because it doesn't do anything else.
It's like when they originally shot the movie, their intent was to license a song, and they just couldn't.
No, it was
really
written for this.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a song written
I thought
for
maybe
the composer.
they couldn't get a song, so they just composed that song and put it in there.
It's by DeBarge.
Really?
Yes, but it's by DeBarge, who is, I think, it was a group, but they just did the song for it.
That's one memory.
From what I understand, I don't think that it's an actual song that they did. I think they just recorded it because DeBarge is a real group. But I think that the composer, John Williams, had a connection to them, and he had them do a song.
Okay.
As far as I know.
John Williams? You mean John Harris, right?
John Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison. Yeah. Yes, I was like, John Williams.
John Harrison.
But yeah, I just that's one memory that has to do with Creepshow. The other one is we were watching it. I don't know. Creepshow just was always on at your house. That's why I knew you were gonna pick it. I mean, honestly, we should one day in a Haunted Hall episode cover Creepshow for the fuck of it. Just because we could talk for 3 hours about Creepshow, I'm sure. I remember there was another time we had it on. It was the same scene, and you were like, see, that's why white people can't dance. I think you said that. I just remember, and I was like, I don't know. I don't even
Harris.
know. We were just sitting there, and I just remember you saying that. Like, I was watching the movie, like I wasn't even saying anything, and you just say that out loud. I remember you were in your computer chair.
I don't remember that at all. But
it stands out to me for some reason. Those two things. You were playing the song over and over again, and then that moment. And we're talking like over 15 years. This is a long time ago, and you were just like, "That's why white people can't dance," and you were doing like the really terrible Ed Harris. Oh man, that was funny. That just popped in my head now thinking about, because he does that ugly face in the scene. He's like that, like weird, like his teeth are. You were like, white people can't dance. What the fuck is this shit? You were like, what the fuck is this? What is that move to that song? So there you go. That's my Creepshow memories with Manny from back in the day. That's a good pick. I think that's a crowd pleaser, no matter what context, like no matter wherever you screen it, it still blows my mind. People that have never seen that movie, it still blows my mind.
Well,
again, younger people.
Now, we're 45 years from now, or 40 years later. If there's anyone on the island that we're on that is not enjoying Creepshow, we're just going to eat them.
Yes.
Just eat them. That's it.
Yes, that's it. It's going to become a cannibal party at that point.
That's it.
That's it. Apparently this island has polar bears and no food. So we're eating people that hate Creepshow. I don't care if there's
food. We're just going to eat them.
We're just going to eat them if they hate Creepshow.
They hate Creepshow. We're just going to eat them. Food or not.
All right.
Fuck them.
My number 5. You ready for it?
Sure.
This movie was my high school movie.
Mm-hmm.
I still say one of the best werewolf movies ever of all time. Mm-hmm. I still say it's up there, probably top 5 werewolf films of all time.
I think it's the best werewolf movie.
And I think you know what movie it is without me even saying it. Yeah. It's got comedy. It's got horrific shit in it. It's got gore. It's literally got a lot. It's got everything in it, in my opinion. And that's Ginger Snaps from 2000. Love this movie.
In agreement.
I think whenever there's people that had never seen it and I recommend it to them, they always end up saying how much they enjoyed it. And like I said, I think it just has all the elements. And it's so funny. I was talking to somebody recently about Ginger Snaps, and I was like, there's going to be a day they remake it. And that movie is such a product of its time. And that's another movie I want us to cover deep dive in the future in a Haunted Hall episode as well. It's such a product of that time that it came out in 2000. And again, I was in high school in 2000. So that's why I said it's like my high school movie. I will always have a lot of nostalgia and love for it. But that movie is such a product of that time that I feel like if they ever remade it, it'd just be a weird, I don't know, it would be a mess, I think. I don't think it would be any good. I think not today's society as well. I think it's just not, it was ahead of its time. So like, that's why it doesn't need to be remade, you know, like female empowerment and all that stuff. Like it was such ahead of its time that remaking it would just soil that. But that's enough of that talk. But yeah, Ginger Snaps. I love it. I think most people too, like Creepshow, enjoy Ginger Snaps. I've never met someone that hated it as well. So I think that's a safe choice. I know you love Ginger Snaps as well. Yes. So I figured we'd agreed. We'd agree. I have a feeling we're going to agree on all these movies.
It's how I hooked my wife.
There you go. See,
when I
you
first
can
met her. Yeah, when we first met, she said, so my Ginger Snaps memory. When we first met, she said she didn't like horror movies at all. And blah, blah, blah. You know, it's always, she said what everybody who says they don't like horror movies says. They quote scream unknowingly. And they always say, you know, it's just a stupid girl in a small tank top who runs up the stairs instead of out the door. You're quoting a fucking horror movie when you tell me you don't like horror movies. You know what I mean? So first off, shut up. That just means you watched it. Okay. But she said she didn't like horror movies. She said exactly that. It's always a stupid big-breasted girl runs up the stairs instead of out the front door. You know, I said, well, that's just because you haven't seen the right horror movies then. And I firmly stand by that. Every single person who says they don't like horror has not seen the right one. They just need the one that's going to show them that the horror film for them does exist, because it spans everything. You know, it's not just oh, here's a horror film. No. Horror is just such a what's the word? Malleable.
Okay, malleable. Yeah, it transcends. Again, I was going to use that word again.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It transcends so many genres and so much everything that everybody's got a horror movie that they can enjoy. You just have to find it. And I showed her Ginger Snaps, and she was in love, and it is still one of her favorite movies to this day.
Right, man. Yeah. I mean, it has everything. Like for me, you know, I've always loved the werewolf genre. You know, it's got two alternative girls, I guess, that are like death obsessed, and it takes place in the fall, Halloween. Yeah. So it just has everything that kind of
checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, it checks a lot of boxes for me personally, for you, for everybody. You know, if you love that movie. And I still say there hasn't been many werewolf films since that. Probably Dog Soldiers. There's a couple here and there, but not many that have been as good as Ginger Snaps. It's very few. It's a very hard genre to pull off. You know, even with we talked about the recent Wolfman movie recently. You know, it's a very tough genre to tell a cohesive story and have you care about the characters. And even with Ginger Snaps, that movie, you care about those girls the entire film, because the whole story, the narrative is about that. It's like some of the best character development, in my opinion, in a horror film is in Ginger Snaps. So that is number 5 on my list. Number 4, Manny.
All right. I'll go with, let's see. I'm just looking at the list. Which one should I do next?
You have yours. I love how you're just bouncing around. I have mine in order. Funny enough, I don't know why.
I'm bouncing around.
I numbered mine for some strange reason.
Because I have no list. I have no order. They're just here. These are the movies.
I was like, I'm gonna number them. I'm looking down at my notepad over here. I'm like, for some reason, I was like, I'm gonna number these in case I forget.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go with this one. This is a film I've been watching my whole life. It's also not as old. It's a little bit younger than Creepshow. Okay. But very well known. Super well known movie. Most people would say it's one of the best vampire movies ever made. It's certainly one of the most fun vampire movies ever made. A lot like Ginger Snaps, that it spoke to the time, very of the time, you know. But I also think that it it still works today as is, simply because I think it works today because this film is what I think all the modern horror directors making an 80s horror movie, I think they're trying to do this.
Okay.
The Lost Boys.
Okay. You know what? I didn't even think about the Lost Boys.
Yes. They want to do this. They want the music. They want the look. They want the pace. They want the fun characters. They want the adventure. I think that is what horror filmmakers today are trying to replicate, that capsule of a film that is the Lost Boys, that just it pulled everything that was the 80s into one film, you know. And it was that sexy teenagers on motorcycles, you know, like the James Dean of the 50s. Kiefer Sutherland was the James Dean of the 80s in this,
for sure.
You know, 100%. And it had some of that 50s and 60s flavor with the hotel that sunk into the hole, and that became like their cavern, and they got that giant Jim Morrison thing on the wall. It was so pop culture that I think that's why the film worked so well then, and I think that's why it still works well now. It is super entertaining. Like I said, it's funny. It's got a great cast. There's a lot of the vampires are just awesome.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
If you were gonna be, if you wanted to be, like somebody said, I'm gonna make you a vampire, what kind of vampire do you want to be? Nine times out of 10, you're going to say, I want to be a Lost Boys vampire. I want to be some 19-year-old kid on a motorcycle with a leather jacket, awesome hair, and a great soundtrack following me everywhere I go. You know, that's.
You know what I always say about the Lost Boys? Whenever you hear about that movie, it's such a popular movie, but it doesn't come up that often in conversation. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's almost like so popular people forget about it. But it's true. Like even me, I wasn't even thinking about the Lost Boys when I was putting together this list of movies. Because my next pick's actually an 80s film as well that I wanted to like, what would the 80s be?
All my movies are 80s movies.
Oh, that's funny.
They're all like literally, I'm looking at
all
the list.
80s?
They're all 80s.
That's funny. Lost Boys 2 is one of those movies that leans more in horror, but is really funny too. But it's different. It wouldn't fall in line with The Burbs and Ghostbusters and, you know, it wouldn't and Once Bitten and stuff like that, because it's more. No,
I think this is a horror movie first.
Yeah, that and has comedy.
They added the comedic elements to it just to kind of make it more fun, but it also has that feeling of the 80s music videos. Mm-hmm. It has a music video feel to it, which again is very 80s thing.
No, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
And so I think that's what really set it apart from every other vampire movie out there. You know, Queen of the Damned tried to do it again. I love Queen of the Damned, but I'm not going to get it. But I think that they were trying to do that again for like 90s, 2000s goth music. They were trying to replicate that Lost Boys feel in a 90s goth movie. And I think that's what Queen of the Damned was going for. And as much as I love Queen of the Damned, it's not the Lost Boys.
No,
it's nowhere near the Lost Boys. I absolutely love Queen of the Damned. I will defend it forever, but it is not the Lost Boys. No way. No way, shape, and form.
That's definitely a product of 2002 or whatever whenever that came out.
Totally.
I mean, I think Queen of the Damned's got an audience now. Like people have latched onto it for nostalgia because it's like 20 years old now.
When it came out, I went to see the theater, and I remember you hated it. Everybody, me and Lynn both loved it. We were defending it. We were putting, no, you got to watch it. Remember, we watched it with Joe, and he hated the movie. I mean, I
didn't hate it. I just was like, there were parts of it that were kind of corny. But I watched it in the last couple of years, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time around. You get a little nostalgic. You see all the bands and the music, and like it's very much a product of 2002 or whatever it came out. So like, you know, Aaliyah and stuff is it Ashoka? Wasn't it Ashoka? Ashoka is Rosario Dawson from that fucking Star Wars show that I never saw. Akasha. But yeah, like that being her final film and stuff. When Queen of the Damned came out, that was a big deal. But we're not talking about Queen of the Damned. We're talking about Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys is a crowd pleaser. That's another one that if we had a crowd on the island,
Yep.
They'd be cheering when when Tim Capello.
All right, it's Lost Boys Friday. You know?
When Tim Capello pops up on screen.
That's it.
Oiled up and shirtless with his saxophone. Everyone's gonna go crazy.
Yep.
All right, my number 4, and speaking of the 80s and kind of like the MTV era metal product of the time, I wanted to stick a movie from this franchise in my top 5.
You're gonna go to Strangeland right there.
No. This is 80s. This is 80s.
A metal movie?
No. There's not really metal, but there's like metal music in it from the 80s. So my number 4 pick is a film I think I wanted something from the 80s that has memorable music in it, similar to Lost Boys. And for some reason, Lost Boys didn't even pop in my brain, funny enough. Has a memorable song. It's a fun movie to watch. Is it a great film? Is it a movie, my pick, is it a movie that people will be like, you know what, there's craftsmanship. There is craftsmanship in this, but I don't think people would put it high on their list as like their favorite films of all time. But I think they'll be entertained. It's a return to form in the franchise at this point. And my number 4 pick is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Now, it's my favorite.
It's my favorite
of the franchise. And I think most people agree with us.
I think that's the one where they nailed the Freddy formula. They nailed it.
And it's the best looking Freddy. It's got the Dokken music in it. It's got the teenagers with powers, with the dream powers. It's almost like an X-Men mutant movie. They're all in great cast. Patricia Arquette, and Heather Langenkamp comes back as Nancy. John Saxon too. I think it's also the best depiction of Freddy from Robert Englund, where he's not, because he ended up becoming a joke. There was nothing scary about him. He was still kind of scary in part 3, but also cracking jokes. So it was like a good blend of both of those aspects. By part 4, which I also love part 4, but by part 4, he's fighting a guy invisible with a kung fu. Like, it got stupid. You know what I mean? So, and I also think this is also, like, you could put this movie up there with Lost Boys, with Return of the Living Dead. Memorable music in the soundtrack. Again, a very MTV-esque Nightmare on Elm Street film. You could also put Friday the 13th 6 up there with the Alice Cooper song and the young hip teenagers, like the metalhead guy and so like stuff like that is kind of like a popcorn movie was what I was going for with my pick with Nightmare. And what's funny is Lost Boys would fit like right there. Like they're both popcorn fun movies.
In my head, my brain is making connections between Nightmare 3 and Lost Boys and how similar the plots are.
Yeah.
Because so like Lost Boys, you got the two brothers that move to
Lost Boys was what, 85?
87.
87, yeah, because Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was Dream Warriors 86. So close too when in release.
Yeah, you got the two boys that moved to the new house, So that would be, now you have Nancy and Kristen moving to the hospital.
Yeah.
There's a group of people there already who are already dealing with Freddy. There's a group of people here who are dealing with the vampires already. Freddy is going to use one of them to lure the rest of them in. He's going to use Kristen to lure the others in. Here we have David, the vampire, using Michael to lure them to, like the similarities are there. It's kind of loose, but like the stories are very similar with groups of people fighting this already existing
force.
thing.
Yeah.
In an unnatural setting for them, in a new setting for the characters.
I want to make a correction. Funny enough, Dream Warriors 87. Both were 87 then. So then, I mean, I think that was like the MTV year. That was like when all like the soundtracks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. Nightmare on Friday the 13th Part 6. Jason Lives. I don't know what year that was, but that's got to be around the same time because that's when all the movies had soundtracks that we all, Return of the Living Dead, which I mentioned before, all the movies kind of had that flavor with, like, again, I feel like
Friday the 13th was 1 year off of everything. So Friday 8 was 89, Friday 7 was 88. You know what I mean? They were literally 1 year.
So they might have been around the same time that all these movies came out.
Friday 3 was 84. right? Or 82. Yeah. But they were all for like 4 or 5 in a row. They were 1 year off of what their part was.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that's such a interesting time capsule. Like Lost Boys, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. They all kind of have a similar mohawks and earrings, and like everyone's got a similar look. So that was just that'd be a good double feature on our fictional island. We'd have Lost Boys and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors playing. So yeah, those are two good picks that are really similar. All right, Manny, number 3.
Number 3. Where am I going to go with this one? Which one am I going to do next? So this one I had these was also another alternate. I think we've already picked a vampire. We already had a vampire movie. I'm going to pick something that's not a vampire film now because we've talked about a couple of vampires already. I'm going to go with The Gate.
Ooh, that didn't even pop up, son of a bitch.
Yep, that was.
I didn't even think about that.
The Gate, one of my absolute favorites. Totally fun movie.
It's in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah, easy to watch. Another one with a great music.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's only like 1 or 2 songs in it, but the actual score is really good. It sounds great. It has, the following the kids, you're all about it because it's a kids horror movie, but it's not really a children's horror movie.
I mean, dude, I remember watching it as a kid and being terrified because there's kids in it, and I watched it and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
But this is not a movie for kids so much. It is pretty intense for 100%. Most kids, I love the curse of it. I love the cursed record, the cursed object aspect of it, because I love cursed object films. It's just such a cool, fun movie. Part 2 is great too.
Yeah, I haven't watched Part 2 in a long time.
Yeah, I think that The Gate is something that, like you said, on a desert, this is something you could all totally just have fun and enjoy it and watch it and laugh for the night. And yep. That was just awesome.
Yeah, I didn't even think about The Gate. Wow. When we eventually do our top 10 horror films of all time, I mean, we're both gonna have to sit and think about this when we finally do that.
Problem is narrowing it down.
I mean, yeah.
For me, my top movies, my top 10, I have like 4 or 5 that are just like, okay, those are staples. I'm just going to say those whenever people ask, because it makes the conversation easier. But really in my head, out of the top 10, there's 2 or 3 that are never going to move. They're always going to be there. But the rest are just, depends on my mood, depends on the time, what I've seen recently,
It could change. It changes as you age as well and you get older. It adjusts. The Gate is a good one. My boy Terry. Sacrifix. I mean,
still use my first band. We named ourselves Sacrifix, and I still to this day, when me and Ray write music together for the movies, we have it under the name Sacrifix.
I mean, look, it's again, we mentioned the whole metal association, and it's in The Gate as well. So I mean, it tracks. That makes sense. Man, The Gate's awesome. I will always met the wife because of The Gate. When I talk about wife stories, 100 million years ago,
100 million.
Me and the wife before she was the wife, we worked at the same place together. We were quite young, in our early 20s, and she knew I was a horror guy. And she was like, "Do you know what movie it is that the boy has an eyeball in the middle of his hand and then he stabs it?" I said it's The Gate.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. And here we are now married. And that was over 15 years ago that we met. So there you go. Another love. Horror movies, you see? Horror movies bring people together. So there you go. The Gate. Well, I will always associate that movie with the wife. All right. My number 3, and this is the one that some people could say is technically not a horror film, but I consider it a horror film. There is a lot of death. There is a lot of horrific moments. It's a very dark movie. There's some gross elements to it. It's a sequel that I think the original is also a horror film, and I love it as well. And that is 1986's Aliens.
Okay.
So You see,
I think Aliens is an action film.
That's with
horror element with
science fiction horror elements
first. Yeah, I think it's an action film first, and then they added
So it's tough, and the reason why I say that because I was toying between Alien or Aliens, but they both feel similar. I mean, maybe Aliens leans more into the horror aspect of it. There's one being on a ship picking. It's a slasher movie when you really think about it. It's basically a slasher film. Mm-hmm. It's one being killing a bunch of people one by one. Yeah. But Aliens, and it's James Cameron. I wouldn't call James Cameron a horror director, but he did, Piranha 2 was him when he first started. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Aliens. I mean, again, I love Alien. I love all the Alien movies for the most part. There's one or two I don't like that much, but Aliens, it's such a scary. I remember watching it when I was like 6 years old and finding it terrifying. More terrifying to me than Freddy Krueger and Jason. In my mind, seeing the xenomorphs attacking the soldiers and then Ripley screaming to go get them out of there and Bishop's driving the car she drives the car and Bishop is there with her and stuff. Like it's so tense and like half of them are slaughtered. That's the horrific part of it to me. Like I'd consider this more a horror film than Ghostbusters, Jurassic Park, Out Once Bitten, The Burbs. To me, Aliens feels more like a horror film. And then that final act with the Queen ripping Bishop in half, it's like if you wanted to make the perfect horror action film, people shit all over the Resident Evil movies for good reason. Those movies are garbage. Aliens is a horror 100%. Action film. Absolutely. And that's a hard thing to do. There aren't a lot of horror action films that are done right. I mentioned Dog Soldiers earlier. That's an example of a great horror action film. There's not a lot of them. And I think Aliens does it right. And it's also a crowd pleaser. So our fictional crowd would, I think, be rooting for the Marines, for the soldiers in that, and then rooting for Ripley and saving Newt and all that stuff. I love Aliens, man. I think every single character that the core group in that movie are so memorable, and the xenomorph, like there's multiple obviously, and the Queen specifically, just horrific, coming out of the walls and shit, and you barely see them, and then the big reveal at the very end when and then the gross eggs being laid from the Queen. That's what I'm saying. It's got a lot of horror elements in it, in my opinion. So I was torn picking this, but I said, you know what? If I had to compare it to my other two, I don't think so picks, because they're not really horror. Aliens would be out of that group the more horror action. There you go. That's my defense. Okay. If you don't agree with me, this is my list. So deal with it. All right, Manny, what are we up to? Number 2.
Yeah. All right. So this one, we got a monster movie this time.
Okay. Always good.
Yes, it's a monster movie. This one's a little different. I don't think that you expected this one from me, but it's you know what? You can't. It's a fun, stupid, bad movie that I just love. I've always loved it. I've always loved it. And I think that it's a film that doesn't get enough attention because it's known to be bad. So people tend to just avoid it because they heard, this movie's terrible. So people tend to avoid it. But I think when they do finally watch it, like without that veneer of this is a bad movie, they watch it and they go, this is just stupid fun.
I'm so curious what this is, the anticipation.
Yes. It's very violent. There's a lot of blood in this movie. Rubber monster movie.
Okay.
Rawhead Rex.
One we've covered in depth. You know what? I didn't even think about Rawhead Rex because I saw Rawhead Rex for the first time with you. I'd never seen it. This was also like 20 years ago. But yeah, I saw it with you for the first time. and we covered it. So if you have not listened to that episode, I don't know, was it maybe a year ago, last year, something early like last year maybe, or maybe the year before, Manny and I in the archive, on the channel, or in the podcast feed. That was a fun episode. That was a fun movie to cover and talk about again. That's a good one.
I've been watching it since I was a kid. This is a movie that I rented a lot, and then I copied it from the videotape of this, and so I could just watch it whenever I wanted. So as a 7, 8-year-old, I had no concept that this is a bad movie. You know what I mean? I'm an 8-year-old kid just loving this monster eating people and running through the forest
with his
tearing
mohawk.
People's limbs off with them. Yes, with the mohawk. I get it. We mentioned it in the episode that I think he looks like Schwarzenegger. Yeah. And I think you even did a video, did like an images and put them next to each other so you see it. I think that he reminded me of that. Like this was Arnold Schwarzenegger as a monster.
As a Gwar character.
Yes.
Speaking of Gwar.
Yes. But I think it really is. It's one of those movies that's just like it gets a bad rap because Clive Barker hated it. And I think that a lot of movie fans, especially horror fans, they just hear that Clive Barker didn't like it, so immediately they have to be on his side. You know,
I guess,
just because Clive Barker even Clive Barker disowned it. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I'm sure Clive Barker disowned a lot of his work.
You know, Stephen King thinks The Shining sucks, and he can blow me. Okay,
I mean, honestly, a lot of these, authors, if they didn't direct the film, a lot of the times, because it's not close to the source material, they're obviously very close to it. They wrote it. They're not gonna like what was done with it.
I get that, and we did actually get into this discussion on the episode, so we're not gonna go
back
there
and listen
again.
to it.
you want to hear some of my spicier comments on that? You go ahead and listen to that.
Lots of dick talk when we.
I think there
was a lot. I think if I remember correctly, there was lots of dick talk, and then him killing a horse. I remember vividly. We talked about that's not.
Oh
in the film.
that's right. Because that's right.
Go and listen to the episode. Yeah.
Go listen to the episode. Yes, it goes places you're not expecting. Yeah. So Rawhead Rex.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And you know what? I know this is one of your favorite movies, and it didn't even come to mind.
And you know what? If we're on a desert island that happens to have some type of forested area, we're going to watch this at night and people are not going to sleep. They're going to be like, what? Every sound in the woods.
They're going to think the pigs fucking are Rawhead Rex. The pigs you talked about, they're going to think it's Rawhead Rex coming to get them.
Rawhead.
That's a good one. Oh, man.
Might inspire the start of a cult on there.
There you go. Our island is going to be a
religious cult is going to start.
A religious Rawhead Rex worshiping cult on our fictional island.
You're on a fictional island. You gotta have some folk horror, right? So
yes.
So Rawhead Rex is it.
Big Schwarzenegger Gwar character is gonna emerge and start eating humans. All right. Number 2.
Sammy Kerr's guitar.
Oh man. Speaking of movies I want us to cover in the future. My number 2 pick. Now, this is where I was with Rosemary's Baby and said film. I was like, which one am I going to go with? I love both of them equally, but I don't want to put both in these top 5 desert island horror movies. And it's funny because you just named it. You just said the title of the film, and that is 1980's The Shining.
Okay.
So you see what I mean? I was like Rosemary's Baby, The Shining. I will admit, as much I love both movies to death. These are 5 out of 5s for me, star films.
Yeah, me too.
I like The Shining a little bit more. It has more rewatchability, in my opinion.
I'm the same thing. They're top movies, but
Rosemary's Baby.
I would watch Rosemary's Baby first.
I'm the other way around. I'd go more. I mean, they're both awesome. I've seen them.
They're both perfect films, in my opinion.
I've seen them both a million times. Yes. But
beginning to end, perfect. Every frame is perfect.
Yes.
But I would, Rosemary's Baby has a better rewatchability for me.
See,
by a hair.
Yeah,
by a hair.
I mean, same here. It would
by a hair.
Both the type of movies that if they're playing on TV, I'm gonna leave them on. Like I could catch it in the middle, at the end, and I will never get tired of them. You know what I mean?
What I think you know why I think I would pick Rose? Only the reason why Rosemary, because I think that Mia Farrow is more interesting to watch again than Jack Nicholson is.
It's a very different performance. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
But I think I'd rather watch her performance for the 500th time if I had to choose. Like, I'd be more entertained. It's so.
Yeah, they're neck and neck. That's why I didn't want to pick both. That's why I was like, as much as I love Rosemary's Baby, I was like, if I had to pick which one I've probably seen more and I would watch more, it's probably The Shining. So I picked The Shining for that reason. But I still, obviously, Rosemary's Baby would be right there next to it if I didn't want this list to be boring. We're still talking about Rosemary's Baby anyway. But I also think I could see people finding Rosemary's Baby boring.
Like, I could see it, but I would also say you're an idiot.
I would say the same thing. I could see someone, if I played The Shining and I played Rosemary's Baby, for someone that had never seen either one, I could see someone telling me, oh, Rosemary's Baby's kind of boring. Like, nothing happens. I don't agree. But I think, honestly, and in my opinion, the ending of Rosemary's Baby is so worth it. Mm-hmm. It's so eerie and scary and creepy,
it's all a build to the end.
And
Shining is things.
Shining's more cerebral and like more visual. It's more visual scary, not cerebral. That'd be Rosemary's Baby's the cerebral scare.
Yeah,
Shining is more in your face. Come on,
fucking ghost movie.
Yeah, like it's more. He slams an axe into Scatman Crothers' chest. Like it's way. And then you see the bloody elevator and Shelley Duvall screaming and all that stuff. So it's a very high energy ending where Rosemary's Baby, even though you've got these naked people, hail Satan and all that stuff, but it's a little more reserved, I'd say. Not as, it's also a movie from the 60s where 1980 was The Shining. So very different. Yeah. But I picked The Shining. I feel like if I had to show someone that had never seen The Shining, they'd appreciate it more. I feel like they'd just be entertained. Jack Nicholson is pretty intoxicated. So is Mia Farrow.
Yes.
But I feel like Jack Nicholson, and this is why he's one of the greatest actors of all time, the past, 50, 60 years. He's an intoxicating actor. He's just charismatic, charming. There's just something about Jack Nicholson to me in that film that, even though there's nothing horrific happening when he's just having a conversation, like the first act of the film, it's still entertaining. You can see him about to snap. You can see it getting to that point. And I think most people would agree that this is probably, I mean, I could see people telling me like, oh yeah, I'd pick The Shining over Rosemary's Baby because they probably don't think it's as entertaining as The Shining. But yeah, that's my number 2, The Shining. All right, Manny. Number 1.
My number 1 is it's another big popular film. People know it.
I warned everyone. These are not going to be deep cuts.
These are not deep cuts. This is not a deep cut at all. I think Rawhead might be the deepest cut of them all. I think that might be the deepest cut film. Maybe Once Bitten.
Yeah.
People don't know that one very well either.
I mean,
but Ginger Snaps too. It's
maybe at one point, maybe people. Yeah. I mean, if you're just like a casual horror fan, you probably have never watched Ginger Snaps.
Yeah. I think that Catherine Isabel's career has brought Ginger Snaps to the forefront. That the fact that she is in other films that are not just horror films is kind of when people start looking into her. Yeah. I think, and again, she's not like a huge actress.
No, yeah.
But I think that alone has opened the world up to Ginger Snaps when they watch her at 17, 18 years old playing this werewolf film. People are like, oh my God, she really is a good actress.
You know what I'll say before you get into your number 1 too about Ginger Snaps, and I know we're going back, and again, we might even cover it this year in a Haunted Hall episode. Ginger Snaps, Ginger Snaps. You know why I agree with you about the niche thing? A movie is huge when there's like a million T-shirts. There's not a lot of Ginger Snaps merch.
No.
Like, shout out to Razors in the Night, been on the show, friend of the show. He made a Ginger Snap shirt. I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 other people put together a Ginger Snap shirt. Doesn't get a lot of merch. It is niche.
Yeah, I have 1 or 2. I'm not.
I think I own 1, and I don't
have
even know
1
where
or
it is.
2. It's in the other room. I can actually see it sitting on a pile there because I wore it the other day. But yeah, she's got a bunch, but same thing. It's like somebody printed one. She finds a lot on Etsy. She's got like 3 or 4 different.
It's very, I'd say maybe not as niche as Rawhead Rex, but maybe a step or two below. Cause there's not figures and toys.
Even Rawhead Rex, I've only seen 2 or 3 t-shirts.
I don't think I've ever seen a Rawhead Rex t-shirt. So,
yeah.
All right. Number 1, back to it.
Number 1, not a deep cut at all. Fun film that people hated when it came out. And now suddenly they're all on the fucking bandwagon.
I know what it is. I know what it is.
They're all on the fucking bandwagon. What do you know? 40 years later, they all
know what it is.
That Halloween 3 is fucking amazing.
It's the best.
This movie is, I don't care what anyone says, the best of the Halloween series, period. I know you don't agree with me on that, but I don't care.
Now, I'll say this about Halloween 3, and we've covered, Dave and I 3 years ago on Patreon, we did a full Halloween 3 episode. Maybe it'll be time to revisit that movie in the future. Halloween 3 is one of, and this is another episode we can do, a perfect Halloween being 100%. Haunted Hangover. Halloween, the holiday themed movie, in my opinion.
It feels like Halloween.
Yes.
It really does.
Music, John Carpenter's score with Alan Hallworth, the atmosphere, the mask, the commercials, everything about it is a perfect Halloween movie. Is it the best Halloween film in the franchise? I disagree, but it is my second favorite behind the original Halloween. So I would agree. And dare I say part 4 probably has the second best Halloween atmosphere as far as the holiday goes. I wouldn't even put the original Halloween with the Halloween.
The 4, 5, and 6, they're shitty movies, but yes, they feel
4 is pretty awesome. Halloween, I wouldn't say it's shitty.
Whatever.
Listen.
I agree. Yeah. They got the atmosphere. Nailed it.
Part 6 is like the grunge Halloween film.
It is.
It is like the Pearl Jam, Nirvana of the Halloween series. Yeah, I mean, there's no arguing here. Halloween 3 is amazing. I mean, I've got the jack-o'-lantern tattooed on me, so obviously
I got the 3 kids there you go. Right there.
Listen, it's one of my favorite films of all time, so I'm not complaining either. Like I said, ranking it in the Halloween franchise, it is my second. I like it more than part 2. I like it more than part 4, and I like part 4 a lot. So, yeah, that's a good pick. Tom Atkins, the mustache. Yeah. That's what did
I had one other film that I took off the list because I thought you'd probably have it on yours. So I'm curious what your number 1 is. Although I think it's fairly obvious what your number 1 is.
It's very obvious.
You know.
Yeah, my number 1's the original Halloween, 78 Halloween. I would say, and when we're gonna do Halloween themed movies in the future, so I don't want to dive too into that, for that reason. I want to save the conversation for that episode in the future. Halloween as a horror film, strictly a horror movie, to me, is the way it's shot. It's John Carpenter, the music, everything about it. When you just isolate the aspects of a horror movie, it has the tension. It's got the creepy music. It's got the kind of someone's watching you in the distance and you don't know where he is. Like separating what Michael Myers became. I always separate the first movie because technically there wasn't supposed to be a franchise. It turned into one, but there wasn't supposed to be one. That first movie as a horror film, and I know you were never a big fan of it, but have grown to appreciate it recently in the last few years. As a horror film, not even a slasher film, I'm going to say, I think it ticks a lot of the boxes. It's because when it came out, the term slasher movie wasn't really a thing yet.
No.
But it's scary, dude. There's moments where, he's outside of the house and Annie's inside. He's just watching her and you don't know when he's going to attack. He's going back. He's watching Laurie Strode. There's just things about it to me that I'll never forget. The first time I saw it as a kid, I was a little kid and it scared the shit out of me. And it wasn't the Halloween elements, like the pumpkins and things that I was like, oh, I love Halloween, stuff like that. As a horror movie, it just I just think it's one of the best horror films of all time. Like it's a perfect, again, you could disagree with me. Listeners could disagree. I just think, and I don't even think people will disagree with me.
I understand why people.
Yeah.
I mean, totally understand why people love it. I never, as a kid, it just bored me. I didn't like it. It did bore. I thought Michael Myers was boring, and that's just a feeling that has just followed me my whole
as an adult.
I can't get past. Like I said, Rawhead Rex, I loved it
which when is I was so a kid, funny. Loved Rawhead Rex. Hated Halloween.
But you know what? Rawhead Rex is a whole lot more exciting too.
No, it's a different.
It's a much faster paced, louder, crazier movie.
It's a different type of movie.
Yeah, but again, as an 8-year-old kid watching Rawhead Rex, I didn't know this was a bad movie. It was just a monster movie. You know, so it's something that as an adult I still love it because I loved it as a kid then. So Michael Myers, I always had that feeling of him as a kid being boring, and now it still kind of bores me.
And the fact that you pick 3 and the fact that you pick part 3, and I do the same thing. I would, and I know this is me being pretentious. Yeah. Separate 3, but you have to separate. It's a different movie.
It's a completely.
You can't even say like, it's better than part 1. As a movie, you can say that, but it's a different film altogether.
As far as part 3 is concerned, Halloween is just a movie.
Yeah,
it's not even part of the.
Well, in that universe, that's a funny.
Yes, and Halloween 3 is
reality. For you. Do you think that was like? I always joke around with people when I talk about Halloween 3. That was a very I like the smell of my own farts, John Carpenter moment. Because if you think about it, Halloween 3 was what, 83? Mm-hmm. So Halloween 1 was only 5 years old. I'm like, damn, you really were like patting yourself back. The immortal classic, I guess. I always thought that was
immortal
funny.
Classic because they didn't plan on making a part 2 either.
And they didn't plan on it making all that money.
Exactly. It did so well they had to make a part 2 and then they had to make a part 3.
No,
so it's okay.
I just always took it as that. I was like, that's very smell I
could see that, but I took it differently. I took number 1 is that they own the rights to it, so they can just throw it in there. Number 2, kind of poking fun at their own.
Yeah.
The fact, you know what I mean? Kind of poking fun of it, of saying look, here, we're going to put Halloween on TV.
You were 3 years old when it came out. I wasn't even born yet. So we don't even know the context of what that would have, how audiences would have reacted to that. And when I watch it now, at this point as an adult, I'm like, this is I was thinking of it. I was like, all right, it was only the 3rd Halloween film. Carpenter's still involved. He's the producer, he scored it. And I was just like, the immortal classic Halloween tonight for the big giveaway. I'm like, there's such a smell your own fart moment.
Mustafa Akkad, though, he produced them all. I know. That could have also been his choice to say,
You're right. I didn't think about that. Maybe Mustafa Akkad was like, dude, you're sticking this in there because this was a big hit for us.
Another thing could have been, too, the fact that it's part of it, making people look, it is still part of the Halloween thing.
Yeah, I know for sure.
If they were going to do an anthology where every movie was, maybe every year there was going to be some reference to one of the previous films.
For sure.
So that they just kind of keep them all loosely connected.
I could have easily seen if they made a part 4 that was an anthology style, the Silver Shamrock commercial popping up in another film on the TV or something like that. And Evil 777 says, killer list. I'll have to check out Ginger Snaps. Look, we've got someone that has not seen Ginger Snaps. So yeah, man, check it out. It's an awesome movie. Highly recommended.
The best werewolf movie ever made, in my opinion. The best. It is number 1 for me.
It's definitely, I would have to sit and think about that. Hey, that could be something
go ahead.
That could be something we do in the future. best top 5 werewolf movies of all time.
Yeah. I know that most people would say American Werewolf in London.
I like Ginger Snaps more. So.
I do too.
I do love American Werewolf in London though, and I love The Howling.
You know what?
And Dog Soldiers.
I saw Michael Jackson's Thriller when I was a kid.
Okay.
And the whole behind the scenes thing.
The VHS, I think I own that VHS somewhere.
I do too.
Yeah.
And somewhere, and within that, because John Landis directed Thriller, they talked about American Werewolf in London, and they showed the effects, and they showed all the stuff that they did. So when I finally watched American Werewolf in London, I was expecting a movie about a werewolf ripping things apart for 2 hours, and that is totally not
it's like the last 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was another movie that just kind of disappointed me because I'd seen all the effects and I saw everything that went into it before watching the film. So
I love it still.
Again, at 7, 8 years old, it tempered my expectations differently.
Yeah. I mean, as a child, I could see you being bored. Like, where's the monster?
Exactly.
Hence why you loved Rawhead Rex and picked it on this list.
Monster from the openings.
Dude,
monsters.
Rawhead Rex shows up 10 minutes into the film with lightning hitting him. He's like fucking Macho Man Randy said. Yes, off the top rope. Definitely go and listen to our episode if you haven't listened to Rawhead Rex. It's pretty ridiculous.
The Tatanka monster.
The Tatanka monster. All right, Manny. If you had to pick one film from my list, your favorite.
What was your list again? What was your list again?
So we're going to break it down. We got Ginger Snaps, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Aliens, The Shining, Halloween. Now, two-part question. Which of these films is your favorite, and which do you think our make-believe audience would love the most?
I think they're the same answer, Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Wow. I thought you'd pick Ginger Snaps.
No, I mean, very, 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 very close. Also, by a hair, but I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is my favorite of those. And I think would be the big audience pleaser on a desert island.
All right.
Bunch of people sitting sitting on the sand watching a movie on a
with
projection
pigs,
screen
with a polar bear
and electricity apparently.
Yes, electricity, a polar bear, and pigs fucking, and then we're gonna
dolphins screaming,
dolphins screaming, yes.
Dolphins.
And we're gonna worship Rawhead Rex eventually one night.
The Rawhead Rex cult. Yeah.
All right, if I had to pick a favorite, I think the most obvious pick would be my favorite would be Halloween 3. That's the most. Come on, it's me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna pick the crowd favorite, Rawhead Rex.
Not even Creepshow.
Not even Creepshow. Everyone knows Creepshow. Everyone knows Creepshow is awesome. But have you seen Rawhead Rex?
Have you seen Rawhead Rex?
Have you seen Raw? We know Creepshow rules. Have you seen Rawhead Rex?
That's the other reason why I would pick Halloween 3, because for all those people who refuse to watch it, I got that and Rawhead Rex. Now you're a captive fucking audience. Yes. You got nothing else to do. I'm gonna force you to watch this shit and love it. You can't go anywhere.
You're gonna watch Rawhead Rex eat a child in the first 30 minutes of the film and scream and attack a woman. You see his POV and his mouth not moving when he's growling. So that is I think we've got a solid 10 films here. So I think we did a fantastic job. Very eclectic group.
Pat yourself on the back there, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Carpenter, fart smelling here. for the sake of the show,
So the one film that I took off my list because I thought it would be on yours.
Okay, let's hear it.
Texas Chainsaw.
No, I didn't put it on there. I feel it didn't pop. It didn't pop. That and The Exorcist. I don't know why.
I wouldn't put The Exorcist on a desert island movie. It's a cool movie, but no.
No, not on a desert island. If
it was going to be an Exorcist film, it'd be Exorcist 3.
Yeah, because that's your favorite. Yeah,
or even Exorcist 2. I like Exorcist 2 as well.
I mean, I would not say Exorcist 2 is better than part 1, but okay.
No. As far as
desert island,
putting on a desert island
to entertain people.
Yes, entertaining. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that my mother refuses to watch The Exorcist to this day. Like, there's people that refuse to rewatch that film because they were traumatized as a child. So I guess maybe playing that on a desert island, we might traumatize some people. So that's why I didn't pick. Yeah, so I didn't want to pick Exorcist. I didn't want to pick Texas Chainsaw, even though honestly, I could have swapped Texas Chainsaw on Halloween if I really wanted to. I didn't pick any Friday the 13th films because I prefer Dream Warriors, if I'm being honest.
Yes.
And I prefer Aliens, if I'm being honest, to a lot of the Friday the 13th films. And don't get me wrong, I love every Friday the 13th movie. I think they're all fun. There was a couple. One that I almost picked, and this would have been interesting, and only because I rewatched it recently. I was going to pick The Fly. the remake, 86 Fly.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I was like,
was a consideration for me too.
I was like, you know what? I don't think that's a desert island movie for people. Like, I don't think that would be.
I think that's a little depressing.
A little depressing and gross, I think.
You put that on at the end of the night, everybody's like, well, fuck, man.
Put Rawhead Rex back on. let's put Rawhead Rex. We don't need Brundlefly putting a shotgun to his head.
Oh.
And it's all depressing at the end there.
Gina Davis crying for the last 10 minutes of the movie.
No. I don't know if that would have been a good idea. A great movie, though. I watched it the other day. It's been a little while. And it gave me an idea for a future episode for us to do as well. So that might be coming during the Thanksgiving season. If you know what me and Manny have been doing the last 2 years during the Thanksgiving holiday time, that might be a little tease as to what we're going to do with The Fly, possibly later this year. But yes, that's our technically 10, top 10, 5 each.
10 with like 6 alternates.
But I think we landed. We got there. We picked 5 each, 10 altogether. 10 desert island horror movies. Hopefully everyone on the island survives and we live off of the people that hate Creepshow. We just eat them. And we're all Midsummer style on the island afterwards.
We've been there long enough. We all jump off the cliff too.
Yes, hopefully. Well, you can. I will be staying on the cliff if you want to jump off. You can take part, Manny. But yes, thank you.
Make people watch Rawhead Rex enough, they're all going to start jumping.
They might. Rawhead Rex.
That's enough of this shit.
Yes, but everyone that was in the chat live with us, thank you for listening. Subscribe, follow us on all the social medias at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com. Support us on the Patreon page, bonus shows, etc. Early access to episodes, all that good stuff. And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later. There's Manny Zombie.
Pops out. Oh
no, Total Recall style.